So Silverwolf is an upcoming character in Star Rail, very popular design wise, and I think a lot of people are looking to pull for her. She seems to have a unique kit that can be hard to understand, but we kind of already know a bit since she is briefly playable in the game's tutorial section. Hoyoverse has also showed her off in their 1.1 live stream, and lastly you can read about her in their 1.1 preview page. With that out of the way, what this video is about is I read a Reddit post by the user Kyoshiro Mibu, and they've done quite a bit of testing in game, and I think these findings could be very valuable if you want to know how Silverwolf might work, but take everything with a grain of salt. So this testing is mostly about her weakness effect. When Silverwolf unleashes her skill, there is a chance of inflicting a weakness on an enemy target. The weakness type will be the same as at least one of the allies in combat. She does have some cool other stuff in her kit, but this is the interesting one. Basically, she is a quantum character, and then either that or whatever elements your teammates are, one of these will get added to the enemy as a weakness, allowing you to more easily do weakness breaks on them. Now, Silverwolf has been playable, and Hoyoverse has also explained how the skill works in their livestream and the website preview.
Her skill can inflict a weakness on enemies. The weakness she inflicts matches a random ally's attack type.
Which is to say that even if nobody on her team has an attack type which matches an enemy's weakness, Silverwolf can create a weakness that will correspond to an ally's existing strength.
But that description is not exactly the most clearest, and there's still so many questions that I think could impact you a lot, and I think this Reddit poster has figured out some interesting things. So firstly, how did this Reddit user do the testing? The first way is obvious. It's the trial Silverwolf that you can play at the start of the game. And the second way is in Simulated Universe. You see, there is a curio called Punklorde Mentality, and it says upon entering battle, there is a 100% fixed chance to add to all enemies one weakness of the same type as allies currently on the field. These weaknesses last for 3 turns. Sounds familiar? Well, it's not guaranteed, but it's quite likely this should work in the same way that Silverwolf's skill works. So testing done with this curio can be interesting. Again, disclaimer that Silverwolf herself in 1.1's release is not 100% guaranteed to work the same as either the current tutorial version of her or this curio. With that said, we can get into these tentative findings. Number 1, each enemy can only have one additional weakness. This first one might be obvious. It was tested in the tutorial where the added weakness can even get removed if the enemy already has your team's weakness and has to decide between them. Again, this one might be obvious, but this means don't expect to play like a rainbow element team and add weaknesses to all of them one by one at the same time. Number 2, I think this finding is very important. The amount of teammates doesn't seem to matter. So when you read her skill, you might think, okay, Silverwolf is a quantum character. If I use Silverwolf and like 3 fire or 3 ice characters, that will increase the chances of her putting a fire or ice weakness. So you might be planning to build a team like that. Well, from what these findings suggest, that doesn't seem to be the case. So this one, they tested it using the curio. They used a 3 fire 1 fizz team, for example Himiko, Hook, Trailblazer and Natasha, and they kept resetting one fight to get a sample size of which element got the weakness. The user did it 60 times and they ended up with 26 fire weaknesses and 34 physical weaknesses. Now obviously this isn't that scientific, this sample size isn't like 1,000 times, but I think it's fair to say that this is not considering the fact that they had 3 fire types. Otherwise, they should have got a lot more fire weaknesses than they actually did. So what does this test mean? Whatever characters you have in your team, when Silverwolf uses her skill, again, if she works similarly to this curio, the weakness is going to be evenly random between your elements. Like if you have Silverwolf, Asta, Bronya and Dan Hung, which is 1 quantum, 1 fire and 2 wind. The 2 wind doesn't matter it seems like it's going to be a 33% chance for each. The third finding, again, I think this one is also useful to know. It always applies an element the enemy isn't already weak to. This test was done with the tutorial Silver Wolf, and in the tutorial, if you remember, you have Silver Wolf and you have Kafka, who is lightning, and there's enemies already weak to quantum or to lightning, and versus the lightning weak enemy, her skill always added quantum weakness. So what does this finding mean? This one's quite simple. It means you don't have to worry about her skill basically being a dud and applying quantum weakness to an enemy already weak to quantum. This also means if you have a third character with another element like Dan Heng, if you refresh her skill, it's basically guaranteed to switch to wind weakness. I'm not sure yet how you can utilize that guarantee in battle, but it's useful to know. The fourth finding, it applies the weakness before the skill does damage. This is another simple one. It means that if Silver Wolf is going to make the enemy quantum weak, that same skill will also damage the weakness bar. So that's some nice quality of life. And lastly, this fifth one I think is very useful to know. You should have caution when refreshing her skill. So one of the tutorial enemies already had lightning weakness, and when Silver Wolf uses her skill, they now have quantum weakness too. However, when Silver Wolf uses her skill a second time whilst the enemy is already quantum weak, it would either inflict quantum or lightning weakness. And actually, it's very possible that she would just remove the quantum weakness. This means we might have to wait until her weakness debuff expires before using her skill again. And this would also mean only if your team is Silver Wolf plus 3 other quantum characters can she safely refresh the skill without accidentally removing it. So hopefully you found this video helpful. I don't usually do these kind of pre-analysis videos, but I saw this post and I thought one of these findings might be a deal breaker or even a deal maker for someone here. And again, to reiterate for maybe the 10th time this video, Silver Wolf in 1.1's release is not 100% guaranteed to work the same as either the current tutorial version of her or the Curio. But usually Hoyoverse games have consistency, so it's pretty likely. And I think at least getting a heads up on some of these mechanics might be helpful to you. So big credits to this Reddit user and thanks for watching.